So we're now going to look at the other area of adding information to the drawings, and that's tagging. Tagging can be used for all sorts of different situations. It's very, very flexible, like most things inside this program. I've added a few. I was having a little bit of trouble earlier on because the tags didn't seem to be loaded, the standard ones, by default, so I've had to go in and load these things up, but I will show you how easy it is to tag various elements and how you can control them and what drives the tags ultimately. So these are standard sort of window tags. This is the type mark, so 44, 44 and 44. There's no number reference to these at the moment. This is just, it's the window type 44, and this would then reference something else, because there'd be a legend that would say what type of window 44 would be. It's pointless just having this in the drawing and it not referring to something else. Otherwise we'd have to describe the whole thing in this view, for example, or have a call out which had a typical detail of a window and reference that. This one, door number 1, door number 2, and so to add a door tag to say some of these, let's just go to tag by category and we'll hover over the door, this one, or this one, and we can put in the tag. Okay, so that's as easy as it gets as far as tags go. Now the reason they are coming in at this point is simply if I select that tag and then go to edit family, then the tag looks like this. Okay, and the kind of the insertion point is centered on this box. So if I wanted to make this bigger, then I could stretch these things out, and then I could load back into family and its details, the one I'm working on, and then OK, and overwrite existing, and these things all update. So because they're all families, they all behave the way that they should. Now I need to change that back, so if I go to this one and go to my door tag, just step this back a couple, Control Z, and then load that back into family, and OK that, and overwrite existing, it's back the way it was. You can easily move these off the door, or you could make them smaller by having smaller text. So again, it's up to you. I'll just get out of that for a second and move it. Zoom in a bit. So I can move this into the room or something. So that's putting in door tags. Window tags work on a very similar principle. If I select the window tag, we've got some information here. Leader line, no leader line. Orientation horizontal, that's kind of based on this context ribbon here as well, so horizontal or vertical. So if I click on leader line there and just apply that, and what's happened is that a leader line is now applied to this bit, so I can drag that out and the leader is going to be stuck onto the window. So a couple of little things you can do there. Another thing, if I select this and go to edit type, then we've got arrowheads for that, and that's really about it as far as the anno tag win type mark goes. There's only the standard type. Duplicate and start adding extra bits and pieces. But if I wanted to create or modify a different tag, then we look at the tag drop down, which is here, and go to our loaded tags and symbols. And this is sort of a data set of all our loaded annotated tags. Let's look at this doors one because we've got information for the doors. So annotag door mark standard. If I hit the drop down, there could be a boxed one, or number and rating, or number only. Or again, I could create some other ones, and the other ones would then be built in the family environment, and I could start adding different types of fields to the tag. So if I just said cancel on that and cancel on this, and we looked at this and I said edit family, we've got this information here. This is a label, so edit the label, and currently we've only got mark in there. I could put the cost and load the cost in, and the finish, load the finish in and say OK to that. now I've got a whole host of things that are going to sit outside of this box. Okay, so I'd need to make a bigger box or do something else with it. Also, my label text is 3mm. I haven't got anything smaller than that, so I'd have to go into Edit Type and then create a new family if I wanted it to be slightly smaller. So 2mm, the bottom threshold of acceptability, and then say OK, and then I could then change the text size to 2 and leave everything else the same and say OK to that. So I made the text slightly smaller. I then have to think about this thing, make this slightly bigger or not have it at all. So now I've got a container which has a number, the cost and the finish, and then I could load that into the project. It's called Anno Tag Door Mark Sheet. I need to save this as something else. So save as, and I'll call it Mark Cost Fin, and then save. And now I can load this into project and details. OK. And then with my tag selected, I could go down to this one. So Anno Tag Door Cost Fin Standard, and then that's going to make that look like that. Now the reason there's no finish information there or the cost information in there is simply because for this type of door, Edit Type, under our information we have no cost. So if I said that was £800 per door, for example, and the finish, which is on this bit, I could call that Sapele Veneer, for example. Then this tag appears with all that information in. Okay, it looks really messy at the moment, so you've got to be careful about this sort of stuff, but I just wanted to prove to you that they are quite flexible, these things. Okay, so some of these are different types, so annotation really and tagging can be all sorts of different types. Now in order to put room tags in, you need rooms. So if you just click on room tag and you're hoping it's going to populate these things with room tags, then you are very much mistaken. So a couple of hits on the escape over to the architecture tab where the room and area section is. So click on room, and if you don't see the question mark and the room thing, or depending on what type of room you've got, maybe the areas as well, both areas, that one is the one with single with metric area, so just the metric area. Now if you don't see that information, it's because this thing's not turned on, so you might get that option. Okay, so just be aware that there's buttons for everything in this program, so you can click sort of there, and that's going to place that room. And let's do this one here as well. So let's pop that room in there. Click on modify, and so we've got defined room areas. So that's picking up the boundary of that one, and this is picking up the boundary of this one. If we didn't tag on placement, then that would have given you an option for adding the information after the event. So one more thing, and I've had limited success with this, but I will show you how far I got with it, are the beam annotations. So this loads a dialog box up, and we've got sort of spot heights on the ends, and we've got a tag for the middle bit. This is the Anno Tag Structural Framing Boxed, and under the element to place, structural framing tag, not a spot elevation. Okay, that. And now I've got beam elevations on these ones. Okay, so I say okay to that. And then if I tag by category, now it's looking for floors at the moment because that's the dominant one. I can't see sort of underneath it until I tab in. And then if I tab to that, it's going to give me the type of beam that we're looking at. Okay, so once it's picked up a couple, then you're good to go. Not really giving me spot heights, so let's see whether I can sort of get that. Let's just tab over the end. No, it's not actually giving me that, so I'm not quite sure how that all works, but anyway, that's how you would annotate the beams with a tag. So we've looked at rooms, we've looked at beams, we've looked at windows and doors and modifying these things, adding different sizes of text, and that's going to be enough to get you going with tagging if you are going to use it. It is very useful. Material tagging is probably one of the most useful things. So this thing here, no material tag families are loaded, so we'll just say no to that. But the way you would get a material tag sort of loaded for various bits and pieces would be if I selected a wall, for instance, and then I go into edit type. I don't put a sort of keynote for the wall itself. I look at the structure and go into the structure, and then I select each of these materials. Now this does take a little bit of time to set up initially, but once you've got it and you've loaded the information into the material, then you can use it again and again and again. So click on the little symbol as always, and then let's say our brick common. So we look at the identity of it, not the graphics, appearance, physical or thermal, the identity, and this is where we add our stuff. So Revit keynote information, mark information, URLs, cost, model, manufacturer, and all of these things can then be loaded up into a tag which you could create and added to a more or less a detail element as opposed to sort of general information. So it is quite useful. Okay, URL information for the manufacturer's information, just general keywords, descriptive information, and Revit annotation information. So this is the area where the annotation information would go, keynoting and marks. And once you've got that, then you are good to go. So a material tag pulls its information from the actual material, not from a wall type, for example. So just close that down, cancel that, OK that, and I'm going to leave tagging there. The final bit will be to look at sheets and printing, and then we are ready to finish everything off.